It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in.
You initially were going to buy your personal home. Unfortunately, you ended up losing a good about 80 grand in that deal.
Yeah.
But I think that was the second pivot moment because you had two choices at that time. You could have said, "All right, I'm never buying anything again." But you said, "You know what? Maybe I'll put myself on the back burner. Let me see if I can become a landlord." We're still at the beginning, but I think those are two pivotal points that I want people to really think about. Because had you made some different decisions, we probably wouldn't be sitting here. So I think it's powerful that you kind of stuck to your guns in terms of getting your money. You didn't give up after that first real estate venture didn't go well, and you ended up being able to get a fourplex.
Yeah, no, actually often tell people it's the best 80 grand I ever spent. You know what I mean? Because that property was kind of expensive and it wouldn't have generated me any money and it wouldn't have done anything with my, needing a new passion, right? I just had a place to live. So, I've lived in a lot of different housing environments. So I was okay just kind of transitioning into something that, maybe wasn't as comfortable just temporarily until I kind of find what I wanted. But absolutely. I think being an athlete, not to go on a tangent, but I wish
No.
athletes would see some of the things, a lot of the skills that we acquire, or the things that are required from you, are so transferable to other things. Facing adversity, being able to pivot, quickly and make adjustments. Learning on the fly. Discipline. Obviously showing up. All those things, because I think sometimes being and taking risks, right? Taking that last second shot or, right, making that catch in the end zone, right, at the end of the game. But I think when I did deal with kind of losing money or just hard times, just kind of my belief in myself, it makes me able and confident to make those next decisions. It's just, I think confidence comes from your success from previous events in your life. So you just kind of lean on those. And like I said, I'm always okay. If it's in my control and I make those mistakes, I'm good. If someone else makes them and then they impact me, then it's like, man, that's
Yeah.
always the worst.
Definitely. So, what was that experience like? Just buying a property for the first time, being a landlord, and all that. What was that like for you?
I was nervous. I was really nervous. I think the thing I was nervous about was, I want to make sure I want to do a good job. Like I took it seriously. Like I'm going to be giving these people a place to live, and I'm responsible for it. But I did like the idea of being creative because it was a value add property, and that's kind of all I really tap into. So I wanted somewhere I could be creative and renovate. Obviously, for me, I don't can't do the dilapidated buildings, but if it needs some good aesthetic work on the inside, I'm definitely in for that. So, but I was most nervous about giving people their notice to vacate because that's just, I can't imagine. I've lived in transitional housing. I know what that's like, so it's not really something that feels good, and it still doesn't feel good to this day, to be honest with you. But I always try to be decent and think about other people. So I think our state, you can give them like 30 days. I'll give them like 60 days.
Mhm.
I mean, just so people have a little bit more time. Maybe it's not the best thing for me financially, but I think just relationships are everything with people. It makes it a lot easier on you. So, but it was definitely a doozy from the beginning. Like it ended up having asbestos, so I had to get it sealed off and all that.
Wow.
Spent like 25 grand to get all that remediated in all 4 units. I ended up having to redo the roof, and that's even before I've been able to, to purdy up the place. So most of the tenants were pretty easy going.
Hmm.
I had one guy who, like, I knocked on his door, and I'm giving the notice out, and usually tenants talk. So like, as soon as you give it to the first tenant, then they go tell everybody else this is what's going on. So by the time I got to the last guy, he just kind of opened the door a little bit, took my paper and slammed it. And so I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be bad. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
I'm like, oh, he's gonna squat, right? I'm thinking the worst. And then so some of the other tenants moved out early. And so we started doing some work. So I was at the building kind of helping my uncle. I'm not gonna front, he does the majority of the work, but I was just helping with some demo, things like that. So anyway, I see the gentleman come out with his dog and say, I'm not no, hey, this guy looked like he had like a vacuum bag had been empty. He was just so dusty. His dog was dusty. He just looked so filthy. And I'm looking like, oh no, that's what he's gonna squat. He's ruining my place. Anyway, he didn't. He left on the day of his last 60 days. I go in. Me and my uncle go in his unit. So just it's a townhome style fourplex. So there's a half bath, a kitchen, and a living room, dining room on the first floor. You go upstairs, 2 bedrooms and a bath and a full bath. So we go in there. It's just dust. It's so dirty. But then we go to turn the water on. Kitchen sink don't work. Upstairs sinks don't work. Bathtub, shower doesn't work. The only running water this gentleman had was the downstairs powder room sink.
What?
Right? Yeah. So then we go from there. So obviously now I'm gonna rip out the cabinets and to get to Rick, we did a full, gutting everything. And my uncle goes now. Given my uncle's a pretty tough dude. He's gotten under a lot of houses, dealt with a lot of nasty stuff. He goes under to undo the sink, the plumbing, and you hear this. And so this gentleman was alcoholic. So what we think happened is he had been drinking like red wine or something, got sick, right? Regurgitated into the sink. The sink was clogged, and so it just fermented in there. Right. And so as soon as he went, and like my uncle goes, bleh, and he just throws up everywhere.
Oh,
and I
my
go running out of the building, I mean, like just like a bomb's about to go off. Man, it smelled so bad. And we had to use this air filter thing. It was running for like a month to get all the smell out. It was a doozy, man. But we finally got it out, and I should have done it before and after, but that was, and this is my first property. So I'm like, this is gonna be like this in every single one. This is crazy. But we got through that, and the rents were like really low. They were like renting for like $800. And in Seattle, that's really low. And then I ended up being renting for like $1,500, $1,600. So it ended up working out, but it was a doozy for the first. But I had a lot of fun. They looked really good. And then meeting tenants, that was something else I was kind of nervous about. Being Black with, dreads and having people come over, and, usually they don't even think I own the place.
Yeah.
They're usually like, hey, are you the manager? And I'm like, nah, I'm the landlord and I own it. Then you kind of get these reactions a little bit sometimes. Yeah. Not always bad, but they're just not expecting it. Yeah. I've had people walk right by me sometimes.
Wow. So you had a grand introduction, huh?
I did, man. So it actually was, I mean, that part was good though, I think, because I think if it goes perfect the first time, then you got this false sense of security.
Yep.
That this like everything's gonna happen like this. And then when you get smacked, it's like you're not prepared. So like I always am pretty conservative. If I estimate a budget for a reno, I'm gonna give at least a 20-30% contingency that, hey, if things go bad, I got at least 30% or 20% hidden away. Hopefully it goes good, but it's never perfect, never.
Wow. So how did it feel when all the renovations, all that stuff was done and you were finally able to place tenants and kind of, get into the flow of things? How did it feel once you got over that first hump?
It was life-changing. It was not just from, and really honestly, not from a money-making standpoint at all. Being African-American, owning, now an investment property, thinking about my kids, right? Thinking that, and also that I can transition from ball. Like I think a lot of us struggle, when you have a first love like that, it's hard to get that divorce. I remember my last workout. I was like in tears almost. You know what I mean? Like basketball is all I know. And so to go from that to deal with, some of the hiccups and all of that, and deal with the financial advisor, and then have this place, have this vision of, okay, this is what it could rent for. This is what I got it at this price. This is what it's going to rent for. This is how much I'm a cash flow, and see that through, without really any real experience, and just a realtor I hired off the internet, and my uncle. Yeah, it was, and then I was like, well, I see why people do this. This is great. Now I want to do it some more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was life changing for me from not really a monetary standpoint, but just like, oh, I can do this, and then start clicking like, oh, this is what people be. This is why most people that are wealthy aren't athletes. because there's other things out here.
Hi everyone, Sam here from the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button and to visit us at blackrealestatedialogue.com.